Welcome to the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and we're going to continue with the tight end rankings. Right off the bat here, just want to get over two things. First of all, you can find all of my rankings up on the website at www.theffforge.com. There's a link down in the description. I should have the quarterback and tight end up tonight, so they should be up by the time that you're seeing this. And then I'll get the wide receivers and running backs put up as soon as I can. They'll all be up by Thursday, as well as all of my videos will also be out by Thursday morning. Probably the wide receiver video might end up coming out on Thursday morning. Usually I do all the videos on Wednesday, but letting them breathe a little bit more this week and just getting a little bit more information before I make all of the videos this week. And the last item is that, rankings do change throughout the week. We find out more things about players. Sometimes we hear little tidbits from other experts. So I will have my final rankings. If you really want to see those, you can come and visit me 1 hour live before kickoff on Saturday this week. Don't forget about that, where I will have my rankings all up over on the screen, ready to go. And you can also come and ask me any of your start-sit questions. You could also ask those questions in the comments, and I will get to them as soon as I see them and I'm able to respond. With that, let's get into this right over here where I have my cursor here. These are the rankings, my rankings as of now. These are the names. These are the opponents. This is the difficulty of that opponent. Here is the ECR, the Expert Consensus Ranking from Fantasy Pros website. I begin with that, move the guys around from there, and then I also have my projections already done for the tight ends, and they did help me make these projections, these rankings. That input is already in here, so these rankings should end up looking pretty similar to how my final rankings will look. And over here is the difference from myself to the ECR, and those are the players that I will be talking about, highlighted the players who I have the biggest difference of opinion in compared to the current Expert Consensus ranking. Their rankings will also change throughout the week. So let's start off with, I'll go in tiers. So let's start off with my first tier for the tight ends at Travis Kelce with my tight end 1, followed by Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, David Njoku, Cole Kmet, Dalton Schultz, and Pat Freiermuth to wrap that up at my tight end 8. The only guy here that we have a big difference of opinion on would be Cole Kmet, who I have ranked 6th, which is 10 spots ahead of the ECR. ECR and Cole Kmet is 16. Usually when there's this big of a difference, I have an idea of why that might be. I'm not sure. But in a game against Buffalo that I'm expecting there to be quite a few points overall, I am expecting Justin Fields to once again, give us a show. And Cole Kmet's really the best weapon on the offense. I don't know if that's a good thing for him fantasy-wise, but there is, in a position that pretty much sucks by the time you get to the 6th one here. I'll take this upside. And I feel a little bit better in a better matchup than Dalton Schultz, but it was very close between these two, so hopefully you don't ask me which one of those two to start. Let's move on to the second tier of tight ends. At my tight end 9, I have Evan Ingram, followed by Darren Waller, Juwan Johnson, Dawson Knox, Greg Dulcich, Daniel Bellinger, Gerald Everett, Taysom Hill, Chigoziem Okonkwo, and Austin Hooper. I do have Chig currently ranked basically as if Treylon Burks is returning. That's how I projected him as well. I just kind of knocked him down a little bit from his current usage over the last 2 weeks, but I also have him somewhere above his usage prior to that, assuming that he'll be at least a little bit more involved than he was before Treylon Burks got injured most recently. So now let's talk about Darren Waller, who I have 4 spots behind the ECR. The ECR on him is 6. I have him ranked at 10th, and he's going up against Pittsburgh. It's a pretty good tight end matchup. I actually switched him and Darren Waller just before recording, and I was debating between putting him above Evan Ingram or not. The thing is, don't forget, Darren Waller was not some sort of beast before he got injured earlier on this season. So it's great that he had a good week in his first week back last week. Now let's look at Juwan Johnson, who I have ranked 11th, which is 4 spots ahead of the ECR. The ECR on him is 15, going up against Cleveland. Pretty neutral matchup. Those tight ends have been very involved with for New Orleans. They've been better while they've been getting them more involved over the last half of the season so far. And so I expect that to continue. And I would say he is definitely a candidate to slip a spot or two here, but, he's been more consistent than Dawson Knox. So I'm a little torn between the two, but I think that's about as low as I would put Juwan Johnson at this point. He's been pretty much a beast for a while now. Then let's move on to Daniel Bellinger, who I have 12 spots ahead of the ECR. The ECR on him is 26th. I have him at 14th. I understand this one, why he's ranked 26th. I am being fairly speculative here, but going up against Minnesota, I expect them to have some touchdown opportunities. He's been heavily targeted when they do get around into the end zone, and that offense looks like they've, at least in part, kind of got something rolling a little bit with their current wide receiver core. Isaiah Hodgins has come in and really helped them be a little bit more well-rounded, and I think move that ball a little better than they had been for several weeks. So if that can continue, and Daniel Bellinger's, his improvement as a rookie could continue. He was already getting quite heavily involved before his injury, and last week he was back up to a very high usage as far as how much he was on his snap share. So I like him quite a bit in a game where I'm expecting a touchdown to come through for him. Hopefully. Then I have Gerald Everett ranked 15th, which is 4 spots behind the ECR. The ECR in him is 11th. Indianapolis is not a great matchup. And also, Donald Parham Jr. will be returned last week. We already saw that his involvement. And this really doesn't hurt Gerald Everett's floor, but it does cap his ceiling a little bit because both of those tight ends will get involved. And they like Donald Parham a lot. Justin Herbert does too. He likes his tight ends quite a bit. So I expect both of them to have some value. Parham Jr. did not make the cut for the ECR. He is in my rankings, but he's pretty darn low. Then Taysom Hill, I have 6 spots behind the ECR. The ECR on him is 10. I have him at 16 going up against Cleveland. Pretty decent matchup. And he just went off last week. Look, I tend to try to not overreact to 1 week outputs. We've seen Taysom Hill go off twice this season. He does not have the worst floor, that's for sure, so he's not a bad play. That's why he is in this second tier. You can make arguments for all of these guys against each other in this second tier, which will bring us to my third tier of tight ends, starting at tight end 19 with Tyler Conklin, followed by Hunter Henry, Robert Tonyan, Noah Fant, and Tyler Higley to wrap that up at tight end 23. And I have Robert Tonyan 4 spots ahead of the ECR. I have him ranked 21st. The ECR on him is 25th. Did bump him up a little bit just due to the matchup. That is it. Miami's been pretty bad against tight ends. Just saw Dawson Knox come through last week against Miami. And so I think there's a good opportunity for Robert Tonyan in this game to have one of his better games of the season. Then Noah Fant, I have 5 spots behind the ECR. I have him ranked 22nd. ECR on him is 17, going up against Kansas City. Really not a great tight end matchup there against Kansas City, but there is quite a bit of upside. So I am, somewhat optimistic for him to have another decent week. He got that touchdown last week, which was good. Now let's just talk real quick about Dallas Goedert. So when I do this, when I have these guys like 22.5 like this, why I am doing that is so that they don't mess up all of the other guys who I have ranked compared to the ECR. So I'm seeing a little bit more of a representation of where I compare to the expert consensus ranking. Otherwise, a lot of guys would be one-off because obviously Dallas Goedert, if he does play this week, will not be ranked 22nd by anyone or the experts. And for me, if he's playing this week and there's not any, the better the news, the more confident I am in this ranking. We'll just put it like that. And obviously, if there's bad news, then I'll start to push him backwards as far as, he's starting, but he's going to be extremely limited, something like that. Start to push him back. But in a vacuum, I would rank him ahead of George Kittle this week at 4th. Then Tyler Higbee, I have 4 spots behind the ECR. I have him ranked 23rd. ECR on him is 19, going up against Denver. Not a great matchup. I just don't feel like there's some sort of great upside that we can find with some others. I was close between him and Fant and, all of these guys. They're all really close in this tier. There's some arguments you can make for all of them. Hunter Henry is probably the one I feel the most comfortable with just as a floor goes. And that'll bring us to my last tier here for the tight ends, starting at tight end 24 with Jordan Akins, followed by Trey McBride, Cade Otton, and at tight end 27, Logan Thomas. And we don't need to talk about them, but I do have Hayden Hurst. He is not ranked by the ECR currently. I have him ranked currently, and he projected out to 16. By the way, you can see those projections up on the website, and there are ceilings and floors floors, and then there's a projected range that you can see on there. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask in the comments after you check them out. But he projected 16, and I like him right around there. 16, I might put him behind Chig just on that chance that Chig is totally involved in this offense regardless of Treylon Burks coming back. I wouldn't mind taking that chance. That is how it goes for the tight ends. We'll show you the top 10 there. So running back video, we're going to go with that. Should be out later today for sure. And then the wide receiver video will either come out later after that or on Thursday morning. So check all out. The video's out. Quarterback video came out last night or yesterday afternoon. And that is it. Thank you very much. Peace out.